Okay, we're going to get started with this lab, but I wanted to go through this first video. It's just some of the equipment we're using and how it's set up. So here I have two carbon film resistors. They're just kind of powdered carbon that's set to a specific size, area, and length to give you a specific resistance. So there are two different versions here. The way you tell the difference between them is the size tells you how much power they can use before they start frying, and then they have the colors painted on them, and you can use the colors to tell what the things work. And then I have a very simple LED, and the LEDs are slightly different than resistors. The resistors, you can plug them in either way. It doesn't matter if this leg is positive or negative. They have the two legs. You can flip them around. But with the LED, the longer of the two legs has to go to the positive, or it fries, essentially, because LEDs only allow current to travel in one direction. It's kind of like a one-way street for electric current. So we have these three pieces here that we're going to be using to measure their resistance, or the voltage and the current, which gives us the resistance. And then there's this type of device. It's called a breadboard. This is the one we're going to be using. This is just an example. A breadboard has all these little holes in it that you can temporarily attach circuits to. All right, you can build temporary circuits on there. I can put that in there. I can attach wires. I can do all kinds of different stuff with it, because basically everything along this long line is connected, and then each of these smaller things, these 5 pieces here, are all connected, because if you look on the back side, what's happening is it kind of pinches in, and then there's a long, let's see if you can kind of see it along there. There's a long line. They're all connected with metal, and then each of the smaller lines is connected, so you don't have to actually twist the wires together or solder them together or something like that. You get a temporary connection. It's good for building kind of projects that you can test with. So the way we're going to be, the one we would have been using, and that I'll be using, is this little proto board. You can plug in wires here. I can set up a positive and negative side. It makes it just attaching a little bit easier. I go across with these wires, and then what I'm going to do is attach one of the resistors at first, and I'll switch it out which one we're using. This is just what I'm going to call resistor A. So it's plugged in from one point to the other. So one leg of it's attached to the same one as the positive terminal, the other one to the negative terminal. And I have that same power supply that I used before that I'm going to, the variable one, that I can change. Problem is, it's not as precise when we're doing these low of current, so it's going to take a couple of tries each time. So just be patient with me while I'm taking the data for you. But then I have these two what are called multimeters. And the multimeters, I don't know how well you can see, there's this section here that's measuring amperage, this measure here that's measuring voltage. And so you can change like the different ranges. The range just kind of tells you the maximum value that you get. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this one to measure voltage. To measure voltage, you have to grab the two sides of whatever object you're using. So I'm going to use this red wire to attach to the positive side of the resistor, and then I'm going to take this to the negative side of the resistor. And so that will allow me to measure the voltage across that resistor. Remember, the electric potential difference, delta V, we have to measure it from one side to the other. Then I'm going to use this other multimeter. They're identical, it's just I can't measure two things at once. I'm going to set this one to the current setting, the amperage. And what we have to do to that, because the current has to pass through it, what I'm going to do is, instead of taking the red wire from the power supply and plugging it in to my breadboard, I'm actually going to plug it in here, and then I'm going to take an extra wire and go output from here to there. So now the current passes through the multimeter to the breadboard, goes through this red wire to the next red wire to my resistor, back through this black wire, back through there, back to the power supply, so that I have a full circuit. So what you're going to be doing is I'm going to measure the voltage and the current at kind of various points for our three objects, our two carbon film resistors and our one LED. And you're going to use that to see if these objects follow Ohm's law.